Start on your hands and knees. Bring your knees as wide as your mat and bring your big toes together to touch, bringing your hips back towards your heels as far as you can comfortably. It's okay if you can't sit all the way back. Reach your arms out in front of you, and if it's comfortable, forehead to the mat. If it's not comfortable or the forehead doesn't reach, stack your fists and place your forehead onto the top fist. If for any reason this hurts your knees, just come to a seated position. Breathe wherever you're at. Eyes closed. If it feels okay, if your nose isn't plugged up, start to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose, expanding the ribs in every direction, front, back, and sides. And exhale through the nose, softening, letting go. For a lot of people, child's pose, this pose we're in right now, can aggravate the knees. So like I said, please listen to your body and come out of this pose at any time, coming to any sort of seated position that would feel okay for you. But just taking a couple moments to get connected to the breath so that we can get connected to the present moment. Letting go of anything that you carried onto your mat with you today. Just letting it go for now. Good. And then slowly make your way up to the hands and knees. Bring your knees back to center. This is called tabletop. The toes are pointing straight back. The wrists are directly under the shoulders. Spread your fingers apart as far as you can comfortably and make sure that the knuckles on the inside of the hand are really pushing down into the mat. The only part that's really not pushing down is the center of the hand. That's kind of suctioning up. Okay, whenever we put the weight into the knuckles, that'll take the weight off of the wrist, which is really important, especially for downward facing dog, where more weight is on the wrist. Now from here, we'll move into cat-cow. So as you inhale, start to look out in front of you. Think about drawing the chest forward and the shoulders back. And then as you exhale, round the back, bring your chin towards the chest. As you inhale, look out in front of you. Think about pointing your tailbone up towards the sky. And as you exhale, round the back, pointing the tailbone down. Putting it all together, inhale, look out in front of you, chest forward, shoulders back, point the tailbone up. Exhale, round, chin towards the chest, tuck the tailbone. Good, do 3 more, working with your breath. Inhaling the entire way and exhaling the entire way. Seeing if you can inhale for 4 and exhale to 4 and have the movement match the breath. Good. Come back to center onto the hands and knees. Now from here, you can either sit back onto the heels. For a lot of people, this is too much on the knees, so feel free to stand tall on the knees or however it would feel good for you. We're going to practice wrapping the shoulders. So I'll say that a lot, wrapping the shoulders or close the armpits. So let's practice so that you see what that means. Bring your arms up overhead. Now have your palms facing me. Now from here, we're going to actually rotate from the shoulders so that the hands face each other. So instead of just rotating at the wrist, you're going to rotate at the shoulders so that the hands face each other. All right, so I'm going to come a little bit closer so we can practice it together and you can see what I'm doing. So the palms, I'm starting with them facing you. Now we're going to roll the shoulders away from each other like you're trying to close the armpits, right? Rolling them away from each other and then the palms face each other. So now let me show you this way so you can really see what it looks like when the shoulders roll away from each other. So arms are up, palms facing away. Now you're going to rotate the shoulders so that the palms face each other. Now keep that shoulder wrap just like that. So it's like you're closing the armpits, but then from the elbows, you're going to rotate so that the palms face forward without letting the elbows turn out or without opening the armpits. All right, and let's give it one more try. I know it's a little bit tricky, but it'll really help in your downward facing dog. So arms up. Now rotate, rolling the shoulders away from each other like you're closing the armpits. Now keep that, but then roll the forearms in so that the palms face forward. All right, so we're going to give that a shot in downward facing dog. I know it can be a little bit tricky, but let's just give it a try. All right, so we're on the hands and knees. Spread the fingers apart as far as you can comfortably, and then walk your knees back a couple of inches. Now, before we lift the knees up, you really want to make sure that the knuckles are pushing down into the mat, pointer fingers pointing straight forward. We want the alignment of the hands in the right place before we lift up, okay? So now, once we have that, curl the toes under, lift the knees up, keep your knees bent, and then push the hips up and back. So you can look at mine first and just see what it looks like. The knees can definitely stay bent. When the knees are bent, it helps you to not round the back, okay? Because a lot of times when you straighten the legs, it makes the tailbone tuck under. So bend the knees so that you can point the tailbone more up to where the ceiling and the wall meet. All right, so let's just give all of that a try first before we even go into wrapping the shoulders. So we've still got that in our mind, but let's be on the hands and knees and tabletop, really rooting the knuckles down, suctioning up the center of the hand. If at all possible, don't stress about that too much. Walk your knees back a couple of inches, toes are curled under. Lift the knees up, keep the knees bent, and then push into your knuckles, sending your hips up and back so you're in a straight line from the wrists all the way up to the hips. Now take a couple breaths here. You're not actively lifting the heels. The heels are leading down towards the ground, but they don't have to touch, all right? Don't stress out about that. Just take a couple cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now just notice for a moment how your hands probably have the tendency to push into the outer side of the hands, like where the pinky side of the hand is. So really focus especially on pushing the pointer finger knuckle down. All right, now come down to the hands and knees for a second. Either sit back on the knees or stand tall and just move your hands around. In the beginning, your wrists can be really kind of grumpy and weak. That's totally normal. Mine really were whenever I began practicing over 16 years ago, okay? But they get stronger, I promise, if you're consistent. So now we're gonna try it again with the shoulder wrap. It's a lot harder when there's weight on the arms. So let's try it one more time. Arms up, wrap the shoulders, keep the shoulders like that, but then rotate the forearms so that the hands face forward, all right? So get your hands down, get them ready. Walk the knees back a couple inches, curl the toes under, lift the knees up, and then push the hips up and back. Now think about rolling the shoulders away from each other like you're trying to close your armpits. Keep that, but roll the forearms in. You're not going to have as much movement as you did when you didn't have any weight on your arms, okay? So don't worry about that, but roll the shoulders away, then roll the forearms in. So you'll know that the forearms are rolled in if the knuckles, especially the pointer finger knuckles, are heavy. Taking a couple breaths here. And let's just loosen up the hamstrings a little bit more by walking the dog, pushing one heel down and then the other heel down, just to make this pose more comfortable by opening and lengthening the hamstrings a little bit. Good. Make sure you're breathing. The tendency is to hold the breath, so we don't want to do that. Good. Couple more breaths. You got this. Good. Make your way down to your hands and knees. Stand tall on the knees if that feels okay, or sit back and just move your hands around. Let's do another wrist stretch. You can push the backs of the hands together, let the elbows come down a little bit. This pose is such a great pose. It's so good to bring a lot of length into the hamstrings and the back of the body, but it also really strengthens the upper body. All right, we're going to just do it one more time. I'll talk a little bit less and just let you really feel the pose. Plant the hands down, especially the knuckles. Walk the knees back, curl the toes under, lift the knees up, and push the hips back. Roll the shoulders away from each other, roll the forearms in. Make sure that the pelvis is tilted forward so your tailbone's pointing up to where the ceiling and the wall meet. The name of this pose in Sanskrit is Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Good. Make your way to your hands and knees and bring your knees as wide as your mat. Now we're going to do some hip circles here. So just bring your hips around and back and up, just as far as it feels good for you, nice and slow. And go the other way. One more. Good. Coming back to center. Swing your feet around and come to seated, crossing the legs. Pull the flesh away from the sitting bones, just sitting up as tall as you can. Come back to the hands and the wrists, putting a little bit of focus there, showing them some love. You can push the backs of the hands together. A little bit more movement, just whatever feels good, listening to your body. There's no right or wrong. Bringing your hands to your knees, getting into the shoulders a little bit since we just worked them in our downward facing dog. You can do one at a time. Good, and then just keep the shoulders relaxed back and down. You're not squeezing them back, you're not squeezing them down. They're just relaxed back and down. And then slowly let the head hang forward without letting the shoulders roll forward. Breathe. Roll the head over to the right. Gently draw your left shoulder down. You can smile a little bit. Release some dopamine in the brain. When we smile, that's what happens. Dopamine's the happiness chemical. Roll the head forward and over to the other side. Just letting the head hang, drawing the opposite shoulder down a little bit. Little smile. Breathe. Head back down to center. Take a cleansing breath now in through the nose, out through the mouth. Blink your eyes open and slowly lift your head. So yoga practice doesn't have to be super long. It doesn't have to be super intense to have so many benefits. Let's just close our practice by taking a couple deep breaths here together. Let the palms be open just to signify you're ready to let go of anything that you've worked up to the surface today. Bring your chin parallel to the ground. Close your eyes if that feels safe to you. If not, find a gazing point and softly lower your eyelids. And breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Good. Do 2 more on your own, letting your ribs expand in every direction on your inhale. Outer body softens on your exhale. Slight smile. Good. Now either keep your hands there or circle your hands together in front of your heart, bringing your palms together to touch. When we do this, it connects left and right hemispheres of the brain, creates more of an opportunity for balance and harmony. The energy within me acknowledge the energy within you, and I thank you so much for letting me guide you through your practice today. Bow and thank yourself for coming to your mat. Namaste.